A professor of KR Institute said, we follow some of the best and effective teaching learning practices used by leading institutes all over the world. Right? So a professor of some institute has said that we, meaning this KR Institute, follow some of the best and effective teaching methods, right? Best and effective teaching practices, teaching learning practices, which are used by leading institutes all over the world, Now look at the conclusions. Whatever is being followed by the world's leading institutes will definitely be good and useful. Whatever is followed by world leading institutes will definitely be good and useful. I mean, the practices followed by, if the fact that this is a leading institute of the world shows that the practices that they follow are good and useful, right? Otherwise, why would this be a leading institute? You getting it? That to world leading institute. You getting me? An institute would lead only when they are into the best of practices, best of policies, best of systems and techniques, right? I mean, learning techniques. So conclusion 1, I think, follows, right? World leading institutes will definitely be good and useful. I mean, whatever they follow should be good and useful. Look at conclusion 2. So 1 in my view is okay. Look at 2. The KR Institute, this institute is one of the leading institutes of the world. I don't think we can anyway draw it from the given statement, because just because it is following those practices doesn't mean that it is the best. Are able to follow? Just because you are following some of those practices, we follow some of the best practices, right? So just because you are following some of those practices does not mean that you are one of the leading institutes, and this clearly cannot be concluded from the given statement. But what can be concluded is, yes, leading institutes all over the world, or world's leading institutes, will follow the best practices. Okay, so which of the following conclusions follows? Only one follows. Right, look at the statements. All hill stations have sunset point. X is a hill station, right? So there are two statements, that every hill station, all hill stations have a sunset point, and X is a hill station. Conclusions. X is a sunset point. So I'm assuming that this is a printing error. It should not be that X is a sunset point. It should be X has a sunset point. X has a sunset point. X has a sunset point. And the second conclusion is, places other than hill stations do not have sunset point. And as usual, our job is to find out which of these conclusions are correct, right? Which of these conclusions logically follow the given statements. Now, I'm sure you don't have to draw Venn diagrams for this one, right? You don't have to follow those concept of sets to get the answer for this question, because it is logical, right? All hill stations have sunset point. X is a hill station. Since he has mentioned all hill stations have sunset point, X also should have a sunset point. So X has a sunset point. Yes, it definitely follows. Now look at second conclusion. Places other than hill stations do not have sunset point. Is it given in the question? Is it given in the statements? No. What the statement tells is all hill stations have sunset point. Does not mean that other places do not have a sunset point. Other places can still have sunset point. So places other than hill stations do not have a sunset point cannot be taken as a definite conclusion, right? So only one follows. Only one follows is the answer. Very easy, right? You can also solve the same question using Venn diagram if you want. How do you do it? All hill stations have sunset point. So all hill stations have a sunset point. All hill stations are inside sunset point. I mean, S, let's say, represents sunset point. All hill stations have sunset point. X is a hill station. X is inside this. X is inside. Now, X has a sunset point. Yes, X is inside sunset points. So X has a sunset point. Follows. Places other than hill stations do not have sunset point. It is wrong. Because if you look at the basic diagram, see, this is the basic diagram. What we have drawn here is the basic diagram. So if you look at the basic diagram, there is a region which is outside hill stations, and it still has sunset points. This yellow shaded region is what? Yellow region here is not, yellow region does not represent hill stations. But still these are places which have got sunset points. So places other than hill stations do not have sunset point is wrong. I can see a lot of places which are not hill stations but still have a sunset point. Yeah. So even if you want to go by Venn diagram, you can just apply that same concept of drawing the basic diagram to get the answer. It should be only one follows.